So I was introduced to the idea of bullet journaling around 3 years ago by my good friend Anna. So a bullet journal is basically just a free-form way to help you track the past, organize the present, and also plan for your future. It was a really powerful idea of tracking your own habits that drew me to bullet journaling in the first place. But if you know anything about bullet journaling, you will know that if you go online, there are so many amazing examples of creative and imaginative and artsy kind of bullet journals out there. And honestly, these amazing bullet journals really put me off trying it at first. At first, it seemed like a lot of work, to be honest, a lot to keep up with. And also just the standard set by the internet seemed really high. However, that aside, I did eventually get started with my own bullet journal and actually spent about a year doing it in that kind of overcomplicated way that I just talked about. I had pages for everything. I had pages for movies, for books, for TV shows, for moods, for habits, for everything you can imagine. And honestly, I just didn't really need it. Not only that, but the overcomplicated nature of it meant that I actually spent a lot more time in it than I firstly had available and was willing to commit to it. It wasn't until the start of this year that I actually took my whole bullet journaling process, I tore it into its constituent parts, and I really tried to boil it down to the things that were really valuable to me, the things that worked, and the things that I felt I needed to enhance my life. I then really simply just scrapped all the bits of my old bullet journaling that I either didn't use or maybe even just didn't really value. And for me, this is where the beauty of bullet journaling actually lies. It's a totally free-form way of tracking your life. Every individual person's bullet journal can be, and actually usually are, completely different. So all this really means is that if you have things that you want to track or things that you want to use your journal for, then you can do that. You just design your journal to reflect that. Now, with all that being said, I will walk you through my fairly simplified and fairly stripped back version of a bullet journal. Now, it's important to point out that despite my criticism of over-designed and over-artistic and creative bullet journaling, and although I have removed the massively artistic elements of a bullet journal, I have still decided to keep a sort of monthly theme running throughout each of the months of my journal. Now, I'm actually not a naturally creative or artistic person, nor am I anywhere near a good drawer or even calligrapher. But a couple of years of practice with a bullet journal have meant that I've found my ways of making it look good. I've also found that for me, including these themes and including the drawings in particular, adds an element of mindfulness to the actual layout and the creation of each month in my bullet journal. It allows me just to spend some time whenever I have a bit of spare time, just being in the moment and being present while I design and lay out each month's spread. Although honestly, more and more now I'm considering dropping the drawings and designs, as it's by far the most time consuming and unsustainable part of my journal. However, at least for now, it stays. So starting at the beginning, I start off each and every year with this 2-page spread of my goals for the year. This can be added to throughout the year, but I love having this right at the start of my journal. I do check back on these regularly, and they help me bring overall focus on what I want to achieve in this year. For 2020, I've separated my goals into personal, finance, career, health, travel, magic, and other. I also, every single year, choose a word of the year that reflects really my focus for that year as a whole. This year I've gone with the word inspire. Moving on, I then have this page in my bullet journal, which is actually really popular with a lot of bullet journalers, and this is my year in pixels. Honestly, this is just a really fun page to make and to fill out as you go. It just gives you a really cool view of your year so far, and you can just see kind of how you felt up till now during the year just at a glance. I then have a really simple cover page to introduce each month. This also just introduces the kind of drawing theme for that month as well. Again, really a mindfulness practice, this page. After that, each month I've got a really simple monthly calendar. Now, I don't actually use this monthly calendar for my day-to-day organization. My life is way too complicated for just that page. I actually use Google Calendar for my day-to-day organization, but I find this page just useful just to get the whole month down on paper for a bit of mental clarity of the month ahead. Now we can move on to the pages, which are really the actual reason that I journal. So on this next page, I have both a mood tracker and a sleep tracker. This is really simple as well. Just each day I rate how I'm feeling from 0 up to 10. But I do take extra care each day to actually think about this figure and not just kind of mark it down randomly. I do also take some care just to make sure I'm being really honest with it. And then below that, I just really simply track when I went to sleep and when I wake up in the morning and actually kind of get going as well. One of my overall focuses for 2020 is to improve my sleep, my quality, and my consistency of sleep. So I put my sleep tracker right next to my mood tracker to see if these directly influenced each other at all. And although it is only the end of March, I'm almost certain that I've seen significant patterns here already. So it is really serving its purpose quite well so far. On the opposite page to this, I just have a space where I can write down one sentence every single day. Now, this sentence is usually just about what happened that day, the kind of things I got up to and anything of note that maybe happened as well. I used to value this page actually a lot more than I do now, because I could look back on my year and cross-reference it with my moods and maybe even my sleep and see why I felt like I did on certain days in the past. However, this year I've started using the app 1 Second Every Day, which basically does this job for me but in video form. However, I do still take the time to write my sentence every day because A, it's nice to physically write something down about your day, and B, in years to come it'd be really cool to look back on these journals as a bit of a record of my day-to-day life. On the next page again, I have my habit tracker. Again, for me, this is one of the key reasons for bullet journaling in the first place. My habit tracker has actually taken on a few different forms over the months and years, but I've kind of settled on this layout for now. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this particular layout is a little bit of a to draw and lay out every single month, but doing it this way also means that I just leave a little bit of space there to incorporate my kind of design and theme, and it's also again just a bit of a mindfulness practice for me. Laying it out this way, I can pick up to 9 habits that I want to track each and every month. Now, these do tend to vary, and I don't always pick 9, but it tends to be around about 3 habits around well-being, 3 productivity habits, and then 3 health habits, give or take a few. Now, I should point out that the point of these pages is not actually to give myself a hard time if I don't achieve the things I wanted to achieve that month. Yes, there is an element of holding yourself accountable here, but it's more about just bringing some curiosity and even awareness to the way that we're doing things so that we can examine them, maybe even experiment with them a little bit with a view to improve them for the future. As you can probably see from my habit tracker, I'm definitely doing better in some of these than I am in others. Although March has been a very strange month in all fairness. Over here, I usually have a spare page which I put the least cheesy inspirational quote that is still relevant to the theme of that month that I can find. I'm actually not generally a huge fan of these kind of cheesy inspirational quotes. I usually think they're a little bit ridiculous, outlandish, and honestly just sometimes a little bit unrealistic too. But I do usually manage to find one that fits within my theme and still speaks to the realist within me as well. Over the page again, we have a single page per calendar week, which also has a to-do list for general things that need done by the end of that week, and a space for a couple of specific goals that I want to achieve by the end of that week. I don't actually use these pages as much anymore because I now actually use the back half of the journal to create specific daily task lists that are specific to what I'm actually doing that day. But I still find that a page per week gives me some clarity for the week, and it is useful just to see your week mapped out like this to see how busy you are or where you have time to rest or maybe even do other things. And barring a few little fun pages here and there, that's kind of my whole bullet journal process. Now, I know that I could refine this whole process a little bit further if I wanted to, and honestly, I probably will in the next few months, just to make it a little bit more efficient and make it work for me a little bit better. But again, that's the beauty of bullet journaling, is that you can change it, you can start to mold it. It's a very free form kind of way of thinking. But for now, this works for me. If I had to really boil it down to what this is all about, it's kind of about recognizing and just being aware of emotional and habitual trends in your life, and then trying to use that knowledge to make meaningful changes to the way that you do things. I really hope this video helped you in some way. Maybe you're looking to start journaling, maybe you already journal a little bit and we're just looking for some inspiration from the way other people do it, or maybe you've never even heard of the term bullet journaling and this was just a little bit interesting for you. Let me know in the comments if you like this kind of content, if you're interested in bullet journaling and other ways of organizing your thoughts and your life. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. Until next time.